to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Gentlemen, it is so good to see you both. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. I haven't seen you in like a gajillion years.
It has been a while.
Oh, you saw me just a few months ago when we did our podcast.
Well, see, I'm old. I forgot.
Oh, right. And you could have been in the show and you could have seen us then.
Yes. I don't think I have the adrenaline for that anymore. Good grief. So, thank you really for doing this. I really do appreciate it. I'm fascinated here about what went on. I didn't get to see it, but
we know
the whole process. Just I'm enamored with it. So, why don't you take me back to, you guys saw it in New York, right? Is that correct? Or Boston?
We saw it in Portsmouth.
Portsmouth. Okay.
Yeah.
So start there with, what you saw, what intrigued you, what made you think, we could do this pretty well over in Concord, and go from there, and how it eventually evolved.
Well, a very good friend of mine, Kathy Somsich, who you undoubtedly know.
I do.
I directed her once in a production of Love Letters with Kevin Gardner, and I worked with her once at the Palace when she was a stage manager and I was props master. She called me up one day and said, would like to come to see me in a play in Portsmouth? And she said, it's called White Rabbit, Red Rabbit, and I can't tell you anything about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't see the script. I just go on stage and there's no director and no rehearsals. And I said, well, all right, sure. So I got Lacy and we went over to Portsmouth, which is 45 minutes away, and saw the show, and it totally blew our minds. It was unlike anything I had ever seen or experienced in the theater before. I was simply on the edge of my seat the whole time, wondering what was going to happen. Unfortunately, we can't talk about the content of the play, just that we couldn't stop talking about it all the way back to Manchester for 45 minutes. That's all we talked about. And then while we were in Portsmouth, we saw that Peter Josephson was doing the last performance the following weekend. So we said, we're going to go back, because we wanted to see what a different actor would do with the same material. So we went back, and they had invited a bunch of their actors back and some of the audience members to have a talk back at the end of the show. So we're all sitting in a circle backstage. Maybe it was on stage. Yeah, it was on stage. And everybody was talking about their experience with the play. Peter was talking about it. Kathy was there. The staff was there. And it was just one of those amazing post-show experiences. And again, we talked about it all the way back home from Portsmouth for 45 minutes straight. And in that trip, we decided we got to bring this play to Concord. Concord audiences have got to see this play.
So why don't you give me an overview of, or as much as you can, of the play for people who don't know what's going on with it. And then I want to talk to you about all of these experiences. So go ahead. Not good for radio, folks.
Well, I can blabber all day, but I just wanted to give Lacy a chance to answer a question.
I'll jump in later.
Okay. So what was the question again, Ray? I'm also old and I forget.
Why don't you explain what the play is, with as much as you can tell us about what the play, White Rabbit, Red Rabbit, what is it, who wrote it, why it was written, whatever you can divulge.
Okay, sure. The author is an Iranian. He was a young man. He was 29, living in Iran, in Tehran. And from what I've learned, he had a nightmare one night, and he got up and decided to write a play. We call it scripted improv because the actors can't see the script. The audience doesn't know anything about it. The actor goes on stage, is handed the script, and just starts the play in front of the audience who doesn't know anything about it either. So it's one of those rare examples where the audience and the actor go through a process of discovery simultaneously. Nassim was a conscientious objector in Iran, and he indicates that there were a lot of other people like him, but military service is mandatory for young men. They have to do military service for 2 years in order to get a passport. So he refused military service, couldn't get a passport. So he sent his play out into the world by social media and email and blog and got representation around the world. And the play started to be produced. He didn't see it himself for 3 years because he finally got a passport and was able to get out of Iran and finally got to see the play. But 3 years it was out in the world being performed all over the place and he couldn't see it. It had a 42-week run off Broadway with stars like, it opened with Nathan Lane and it had stars like Whoopi Goldberg and Darren Criss and Cynthia Nixon and David Hyde.
Crazy.
The guy from Ragtime. I'm going to forget. I always forget his name. Anyway.
Brian Stokes Mitchell.
And, people were clamoring to get into this play. And then it's done by community theaters and regional theaters. It premiered in Edinburgh, Scotland, and just moved around the world. It was, I just think it's amazing. And of course, being a 29-year-old playwright in Iran, it's not a political play, but you can certainly feel the effect of growing up in Iran by listening to the play. When we, on opening night, which was Steve LaJoy, we went out to greet the folks, and one of our friends from Durham had come over, a married couple had come over from Durham, and Mike turned to me and said, "We take freedom for granted."
Well, that's the truth. Good grief.
We just don't know what it's like to grow up in a culture where every movement is controlled and information is withheld and you can't travel and you have to do this and you have to do that.
Yeah. So I'm guessing, does that come out in the play? Is that?
Well, I'm still not going to say.
This is going to be a long interview.
Either way, Ray, it ain't going to work.
I know. We have to dance around these restrictions. So a couple of things. Were you in touch with the author at all?
His email address does happen to come out, and so anybody can email him. I had to watch every performance and take notes in case anything unusual happened. And at the end of every show, I had to send a box office report and a report about the performance to Nassim and Jim Weiner, who's Boat Rocker Entertainment, who handles it in this country, and Wolfgang, somebody who's the guy that produced it in Scotland. So I was writing to them every night after the show.
That's interesting.
And I actually heard back from Nassim after the first report. Yeah.
Can you talk about what he was doing with that information, or what? I mean, most authors don't ask for that stuff. They don't. Once they've put it out in the ether, they don't care. Right.
I just think he's really interested in theater. He still goes around the world teaching theater classes. He's currently touring in a play called Nassim, where he shows up and a local actor joins him, but the local actor doesn't know anything about what's going to happen.
Wow. Well, he really likes to walk the wire. Jeez.
Yeah.
So did you have any hesitation so you saw it in Portsmouth and you want to bring it to Concord? Was there anything that maybe you were hesitant about doing?
I don't know that we were hesitant. We were so excited about it. We both enjoy theater, and for me, watching an actor on stage be handed a script that they've never seen before and then asked to perform it, you get to see the wheels turning in their heads. All the skills that they have for performance and all the talent is there, and then trying to put the words that they're reading, they don't have time to really digest it, putting that forth to an audience that's there to watch them. Well, we just thought, this is just really intriguing and it's exciting to watch. what we didn't realize when we started out, we thought, oh, well, no director, no rehearsal. We're getting a chance to choose the actors that we want. This is going to be easy breezy. Well, then came publicity. And how do you publicize something that you can't talk about?
Yeah.
So we had some interesting hurdles to jump over to try to figure it out. So we decided to just sort of play up the whole thing that we couldn't talk about it. So we got Andrew Pinard to agree to be in a video where he is going to tell everybody what the play's about, and then everything's bleeped out. Because we figured maybe we could provide some intrigue by what we couldn't say, and hopefully get people excited enough to maybe, or intrigued enough to come to see the play.
Yeah, we did. During the publicity part of it, we produced 3 videos, actually. The first video was a green screen video, simply panning down a green screen with nothing you could see, finally panning down to a pair of origami rabbits. And the second video was the one with Andrew, where anything important was bleeped out. It's hysterical to watch. And the third video was an actor montage where we introduced the 9 actors. And we asked them 2 questions. We said, what do you think the play is about? And the second question was, why do you want to do it? So all that raw footage was put together in a little short 3-minute video where they're answering those questions. And it's really an engaging little video.
Interesting. What was your process like? Even though there's no director, you have to stay in contact with your actors before each performance. So what did you give them? Any advice? Did you give them, what, you having had seen it, is there anything that you could talk to your actors about that before they went out? This thing's just full of landmines.
Yes, it is full of landmines. And, I'm a director, that. And I had to fight like hell not to say anything or coach anybody, especially some of these people are really good friends of mine. And I know how they perform, and I know they're worried, and, I want to protect them. I want to do everything a director would do. So I had to fight like hell not to say anything that would coach them at all. We decided it was absolutely important that they go into this thing cold. They couldn't even see the set. We took them in the back door of the theater so they wouldn't see the set.
My.
So they walked onto a stage they'd never seen that had stuff on it, minimal stuff, but still stuff that was involved in the play. But they never, even when the house opened, we told them to get in touch with us if they had to go to the bathroom so we could find a blank place where they could get to the bathroom and not see any of the audience members. It was just totally go into this thing cold.
Oh, I'm having heart palpitations. Well, as an actor, knowing that, how I get nervous just sitting backstage, period. Yes. Never mind never having seen the play, never knowing who's in the audience, not knowing what's on stage, and having no direction. Yeah. Oh, man.
Most of the actors were actually ridiculously nervous when we got them to places. Either one of us took them to places just before they entered. Yeah. We would tap them on the shoulder when it was time to go. They were all really, really nervous, but almost all of them, to a fault, said as soon as they got to the stage, they were okay.
Yeah, nice. It's quite a cast, too. I see your poster there.
Oh, yeah, those are the actors.
Yeah. Looking at them, was there anything about those 9 that why you really wanted them? Aaron, I know, and Deirdre, he does improv. She's done one-person play. I don't know. I know Steve. I know Eric and Katie. Was there something about their talent pool that made you cast them, or were they just available?
Well, we talked initially about wanting a range of ages, and we wanted men and women. But we definitely wanted a range of ages. So we had some younger people and some middle-aged people and some older people. Chris Avery, who is on the bottom in the middle. Yes, yep. He's on the bottom in the middle. He was one of the younger actors, but also the least experienced of everyone. But David McNeil, we picked David McNeil. He's the youngest actor, but he has a fairly extensive theater experience and directs and does middle school theater or high school theater. So he knows a lot about theater. What was exciting about him was his energy on stage is incredible, but he's 26 years old. He's only 3 years younger than Nassim was when Nassim wrote it. Oof. And here's a picture of Nassim. That's what Nassim looks like.
Quite a handsome fellow.
Yeah.
A lot like me.
And kind of sort of sly and inviting. And I thought if any face could sell tickets, this one can.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm sitting watching David McNeil, and my experience was it felt like I was watching somebody of Nassim's age and energy doing the play. So that experience was just transformative for me.
So let's talk a little bit about the performances as much as we can, knowing that there's a difference in ages and talent and backgrounds and, everything that goes with different social, different spiritual, different, all of that gets wrapped up in it. And knowing you saw Kathy and Peter out in Portsmouth, how different were the performances?
There was a wide range of performances. I mean, there is no wrong way to do the play. It's all actor choices, and they make that choice, right there on the spur of the moment once they begin to read the play. I think it's fair to say that, the script is not a traditional script in that the actor isn't really portraying a character. And so once the actor sort of determines, what that is, then they put their energies towards how they want it to be. Some actors approached it as entertainment and decided that they would perform the piece as an entertainment for the audience. And then other people, I think, sort of invested in the material that they were probing. The analogy that I tell people about, for me, I see the script as a mine shaft, and I see the actors as miners. They all go down into the same shaft one at a time, and they each bring up a different mineral. It's something that they find as the actor. And then it's the audience, the chemistry between the actor and the audience. This is what I find the most intriguing, is that there is a chemistry between, and it's ebb and flow. And sometimes the actor will say something and the audience will react almost immediately, or sometimes the actor will react to the audiences. And it's just, for me, it's just an incredible experience. It's a terrific acting exercise, first of all, and the actors have to trust us as producers that we're not going to put them up there and have them make fools of themselves. And it's well, I don't know. It's also a social experiment with the audience, because they're gleaning information as this goes along, and everybody's eyes get opened, and some people get it right away, and some people walk out and say, what the heck was that? So it plays on so many different levels. However, I don't think anybody walks out of the theater without thinking about it, and hopefully they're with someone and can talk to them about it later. So
11 different performances by 11 different performers you've seen. That road, that walk of discovery in each one, were there things that came out in each one that you're like, oh, I hadn't seen that before? Oh, that's great insight. Or ooh, that hurt. Anything like that happen during?
Oh yeah, our friend Pat Delzell came twice, and didn't she see?
No, she came 3 times.
She came 3 times, but anyway, the second time she came up to Lacy and said, "Was that the same script?"
Okay, that's very interesting.
Said, yeah, it was exactly the same script, and she said, "I heard all kinds of stuff I didn't hear before," and that's how the actor will emphasize different things. I mean, I heard things at the 9th reading that I'd never heard before.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, the script is that deep and complex that you can keep getting stuff out of it if you go back and back and back.
Yeah, I'd spoken to Peter Josephson a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking him about how he liked it, what he did, and probably like a lot of people, he said he did things in the spur of the moment that had he had chance to really kind of think a little bit more about it, he might not, he would have changed a little bit, which I guess is part of the whole process, and part of the fun of it. I'm guessing that you have to be in the moment and doing things. It's not like you're going to read, I guess, you're going to read it and have chance to kind of mull it over and then do something. But so that, do you think that a lot of your actors had that same feeling that, looking back on their performance, they maybe would have done something different? I mean, I don't know how you can. I don't know anything. This is a crazy interview because you can't tell me and I can't ask and I don't know where to go here, but.
Right. Well, a number of actors, of course, but you realize that even in a directed and a rehearsed script, and then you do a performance, when you get the performance done, you think, oh, I should have done that differently.
Yes, that's true.
That's exactly the same. What amps up in this performance is the not knowing everything or anything. That's what kind of amps up the anxiety. But a couple of performers that I've talked to have said that they don't remember a lot of what happened or what they said or what they did because it just keeps going, and it's really dense and complex. And so they're totally in the moment of having to read the lines and do stuff and deliver the play. And so they can't have all the attention they would need to pay attention to specifics or content or whatever. Some would remember more than others, but for the two that I talked to, they didn't have a really strong memory of every detail of the play. It just was too much, too fast.
Oh man, I can just imagine all of the chemicals flowing through your brain and your heart. And did certain skill sets help or hinder? I know like Aaron does improv. Deirdre, again, has done one-person plays. Do those skill sets add or subtract from the ability to do this? You know what I mean? You can be too strong in some things, and it really it hinders you. This is not good for radio.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if it did or didn't. That's probably a question for the actors themselves. We certainly took into consideration, especially Aaron. We knew that he did improv, and he's actually the one I think that came up with the term scripted improv for White Rabbit, Red Rabbit. But I don't know if it helped or hindered him. It's kind of it's not improv, and it's not exactly akin to doing a first read through of a play either, because I don't think at that point the actor has made choices for their character, or in this case, the actor hasn't made any choices about how they're going to read it. That's a very good question, but I have no idea. That would sort of be up to the actor to say whether it's a help or a hindrance for them.
From the outside, certainly the first performance, which was by Steve LaJoy, who's started acting when he was a teenager and he's now 60, it was obvious that his skills were coming into play. I mean, number one, he's very affable. I mean, he walked out on stage, he immediately had the audience in his hands. It was like watching an incredibly skilled actor do this thing they didn't know. So yeah, his training and skills came in really handy, and were visible. But it was also all very relaxed and comfortable. It didn't feel artificial at all. It was a bravura performance. I'm actually trying to come up with single words to describe each of the 9 performances. I'm about halfway through, but
Yeah.
I'd like to come up with a single word to describe each performance.
When you were watching each of the 9 actors each night, what were you thinking? Were you comfortable yourself? Were you nervous at all? Were you, as you watched them kind of peel through this and the different layers of the production, were you, knowing nothing about it, I don't know how to really frame this. Were you knowing, you knew certain things because you've already seen it. So were you anticipating maybe something they might stumble over, or were you kind of really interested in how they were going to handle something differently, each one of them?
Well, for me, I had to take notes because I had to do those reports at the end of the show. So I was watching what the actors were doing, and if they went off script, I was watching the audience, I was watching the interactions. I was just kind of watching it at a whole different level than just a regular audience member. And it was such mental work. It was actually very tiring to watch all those things and think about all those things. I wasn't worried about the script or the actors performing the script. I was just paying really rapt attention at a lot of different levels and taking notes. So for me, I was pretty much as involved each time as I was the first time in Portsmouth, but in a different kind of way. And it was by the fifth one, I was just really exhausted from all that mental work,
I'm going to ask a kind of a tough question, but and you don't have to answer it, but did anyone struggle? And you don't have to mention any names, but did anyone struggle with the process? Did anyone have a hard time? Because this is really not a normal thing. The pressure, the audience, the unknowns. Did anyone have a hard time with that?
We were not aware of anything before anyone's performance. Afterwards, there were some actors that were shaken. Emotionally shaken, you could tell, and I think it was they needed time to process what they had just done, the discovery of the words that they had just delivered from this playwright to the audience. So I think some had more difficulty than others. Some had emotional issues come up during the reading of the play. And what was really fascinating about this for me is every one of these actors were professional. They had all the tools that they needed in order to do this play and to hold the stage and to entertain this audience. And some of the actors just sort of got smacked with the emotional information that was in the play, and each chose to handle it in a different way. Some stopped the play, put down the script, took a moment, or took a drink of water, or did whatever they needed to do, and then picked up and just went with it. And I just found all of that totally fascinating. And I was just so proud of each and every one of the actors that they had that skill and that talent to do it. Like you, Ray, I don't have that. I wouldn't do that. It's fascinating. I'm fascinated by watching snakes on TV, but I don't want to be in a room full of them. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, because as an actor, I know that release that they need, and I can't even imagine the journey that went through. I was, before this interview a couple of days ago, I was doing some research on the play to see what else was out there and what other kind of reactions some of these actors had. And I was reading where at the end, a couple of them just were weeping because there's something, I don't know anything about the play, but there's something emotional that triggered them inside that performance. And some of them, just like you had said, they were almost numb. They had given all this stuff and invested themselves, and they just were kind of numb at the end. And the audience, according to the things I had read, had kind of the same thing. People were either riveted or gobsmacked or something. The audience didn't leave without some kind of experience as well. Did you find that as well too?
Oh, absolutely. The other thing about the actors is, almost without a fault, they were all incredibly grateful after their performance to have
interesting.
To do it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Kathy,
do you think that were they thankful for? I don't know how to ask this question. Were they thankful just because they could do it, or were they thankful because the play did something to them, or were they thankful just because it was new? They had never done something like that. What do you think they were most grateful for?
All of those things. They were grateful to us for have chosen them.
Yeah.
And really thankful to have gone through the experience. I mean, this is the kind of experience that will change an actor.
It is an experience. I mean, I really cannot fathom doing it. It really gives me chills thinking of walking out, having no idea what you're about to read, and with an audience that doesn't know anything, and whatever. I mean, I can't. Again, landmines. That's all I can think of, is that there could be so many landmines that you could trip over or not handle well. That it gives me angina. the audience. What was? I don't know. I know the audience goes along for the ride, but is there an active? Maybe you can't even say. Is there a back and forth? Instead of just them watching a performance, is there an interaction between the audience and the performer?
Well, we certainly can say that there are interactions, but beyond that, we can't.
Okay.
But the audiences were all very engaged. When we contacted the actors, we asked them that, do you think you can bring 12 to 15 of your family, friends, and acquaintances to see you do it? Because there's no reason for anybody to go see a play called White Rabbit, Red Rabbit at the Hatbox Theater when you know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And you can't learn anything about it. So we decided we'd do it that way. And so they all came through. They all brought in their 12 to 15 people. I thought we were going to have at best 25 people in audience. And our average audience was 47.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. We had even had some walk-ins that heard about it, downtown in Concord, and decided to come see it.
Wow.
Well, in asking each actor to bring in 12 to 15 people was twofold. We wanted an audience, obviously, so that was butts in the seat guaranteed. But also, we wanted the actors to be supported. We wanted the actors to look out into that audience and be able to see friendly faces and see that support and validation that they would need. And so that served two purposes. And we were very lucky. I mean, the Hatbox is only seating 50 to 60% capacity with COVID protocols.
Right.
And so I think the largest audience we had was 66, and the least amount was 34. And I had said early on, if we can get 35 people per night, I'll be over the moon, because that would be the perfect number for me. And we got that in spades. I was thrilled.
So you saw it in Portsmouth and now at the Hat Box. Those theaters, that type of theater where it's small and intimate, really help with this type of? I mean, I can't imagine doing it at the Audi, right?
No, no, you've got to have an intimate theater. You've got to have a 100-seat house to do the play. Both theaters have thrust, audiences on three sides. So that's the perfect environment for this play because there's so much connection between the actor and the audience. One thing I can tell you is that, when the audience comes in and sits down, there are house lights on, of course, so the audience can see. There's warmer lights on different places on the stage so you can see the set pieces. But then when the show starts, the stage lights come up, but the house lights don't go down.
They don't?
No. So the audience can see each other. They can see the actor can see the audiences. So it's like everybody's in it together.
Man, this is fascinating. Jeez. Just, as an actor, I constantly put myself in that position of being on stage and having that happen. Seeing everybody, when we did True, the lights were down. I could still see people, but it was different. I can't imagine having all the lights up and still trying to perform. And I don't know, it gives me the heebie-jeebies.
One funny thing that I recall from Portsmouth, the actor performing the show cannot have either read the script or seen it performed before. I think the first performance that we saw in Portsmouth, a young man came in and took his seat and was reading the program, and evidently was an actor, found out that if he had seen the play, he couldn't do it, and he got up and left because he wanted to maybe have the opportunity to do the play himself someday.
Wow.
So I thought that was really amusing.
Well, hey, hats off to him, but yeah, that is kind of a...
Well, we had one Concord actor who did that, he didn't come to the play because he was hoping at some point he could do it.
So let's touch on that. Would you do it again? I would do it again. We started out, I think, with 15 names of actors that we thought we would enjoy seeing them perform the play, and that we knew that we could work with. And we didn't know how many performances we were going to be given at Hatbox. I think at first it was just 6 performances, and then they were able to add another weekend. And so, we had these names, and then we checked with everybody. And this was pre-COVID. We checked with everybody to, still see what their interest was. And then we found out that there were going to be 9 performances. And we didn't know how to choose the extra names that we had. And so I said, well, it's about rabbits. Let's pull a rabbit out of the hat. And we put all the names in a hat and pull them out one at a time. And that's how we got our cast. Because there were no rejects in the bunch, honestly, and then having to postpone it for over a year, things happen and people get involved with other things, or they change their minds, or, whatever. And so that gave us the 9 cast members that we had. But yeah, there are lots of other actors that I would love to see do it. It took a lot out of us emotionally because, as Wayland said, we sort of went on an emotional journey every night with them.
Yeah.
And Ray, when you're doing a conventional play yourself, you're out there maybe with a scene partner and somebody drops a line and you think, well, should I pick up on it? Should I wait? But through that rehearsal process sort of what that actor may do. If you're on stage alone and the play, and you've dropped something that you weren't supposed to drop, or you've knocked something off and you realize, oh, well, if I don't pick that up somehow in character, that's going to be there the rest of the night, and somebody's going to come in and trip on it or whatever. Well, I could see the wheels in people's heads turning as they, realized more about the play, and so Wayland sat in the booth with the sound person, and there just wasn't really room for another person to sit in there. So I didn't want to sit in the audience because I didn't want to appear to be, a plant in the audience. People knowing that I had helped produce the show, and so I stood up so I could see. I thought, we've waited for 2 years to do this show. I'm going to watch all 9 performances, and so I stood up. Luckily, it was only 70 minutes, but then there's the hour before the show goes up. So I was pretty tired, and so my back is really sore now. So I'm paying for it, but. Yeah, I think I would do it again. It was an awful lot of work, and I don't know how we would start over. It's one of the few things that I would probably consider doing again.
It's crazy to hear you say there's no director, no rehearsal, and yet it's so much work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
You don't think
you're really working right now.
Here's a tough question, I think. Is there anybody who you would think should not do the play? Can this be in the wrong hands? Could somebody get out there and really maybe not be doing it?
No. Well, the trouble with that is that there's no way to know the personal history of any actor unless you're personal friends with them. So there's really no way to evaluate what an actor's response is going to be, external or internal. So, it's a lot like casting a regular play. You don't actually know what's going to happen or how it's going to affect the actor. And, to that degree, you're flying blind. You're flying blind with the actors as much as the actors are flying blind with the script.
Mm-hmm. Can it go wrong? Can a performance go? You said there's no right or wrong interpretation. But can something go wrong inside the performance?
Well, yeah, twice it happened that they get a script that's spiral bound and is only printed on one side, so you can't look ahead.
Oh, that's interesting too.
Clever. They even tell you to do that. But twice an actor turned 2 pages instead of 1 and then lost a page of the script.
Got you.
But oddly, in both cases, the script recovered itself, which I was really impressed by. You skip a whole page and the play is okay and goes on.
Yeah.
So things can happen. Yeah, mistakes can be made. But one of the things about actors is they want to act. You
Right.
give them an opportunity to act, and they're going to want to act. So if an actor starts this script, they're going to want to finish it. So.
Well, I'm guessing all 9 of them were like really eager to do it, to take on the task. So can you tell me what the first 30 seconds are like? Is that possible? That actor walks out, and for the first 30 seconds, nobody knows what's about to happen. They don't know what's about to happen. The audience, for the most part, probably doesn't know what's about to happen. Those first 30 seconds, what's going on?
I really can't say.
Dang it. Because I as an actor, those first 30 seconds is a train wreck, but for me, I'm always nervous and my mind's going in a million different directions and trying to pull myself together and keep it calm. And I just can't imagine literally walking out on a stage, a set you've never seen, picking up a script you've never read, and try to do something. Try to do it well.
If we do it again, you're going to be the first call, Ray.
Yeah, you get me out of the cardiac unit because I'd be sweating bullets. I mean, I love it. I love the creative process, and I love to see people pull things apart. And I'm like you, to see the wheels turning, and because again, everybody comes from different social backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds and fiscal backgrounds and religious backgrounds, and each one of those people is going to have a different, slightly different take. Even if they were twins, they would have a slightly different take on something inside there. And
Sure.
it's got to be amazing to watch that creative process unfold.
Yeah, totally. It was totally exciting to watch it work.
Woo! Woo!
One of
All
the
right.
things Peter Josephson said, Peter Josephson in Portsmouth is really good friends with Katie Collins. And he called up Katie Collins months ago and said, after he did it in Portsmouth, he called up Katie and he said, I got to tell you about this play, White Rabbit, Red Rabbit. And all I can say is, if you ever get a chance to do it, just do it. Of course, we call Katie Collins.
Yeah. So overall, the audience loved it. Yeah.
I think some of them loved it. I think some of them were fascinated by it or intrigued by it. But my take on this play is you love it or you hate it. There's sort of no middle ground. But no matter whether you love it or hate it, it's still intriguing, and you still have lots to talk about or debate after it's over.
Lacy, when you say you would love it or hate it, do you mean they would love or hate the script, or love or hate the process, or love or hate what's
the script?
Got you.
Yeah, and the conceit of the script, in that there is no rehearsal process, and there's little known about the play, which I think is what I find the most intriguing about it is not knowing. It's sort of like life. We don't get a script when we wake up in the morning. This is how our day's going to go.
Yeah, right.
So it's all sort of improv in a way, right?
Yeah. Very, very good point. Do you know if he's ever updated it, or is this the same script that he originally wrote? Has he planned to modernize it at all, or add in any?
Well, I don't know if he's changed it at all. I mean, it sounded like the same script we saw in Portsmouth 2 years ago, but it's one of those. It's kind of universal and timeless. I don't know that he needs to update it.
Okay.
Well, he did update it last year. There was a trial that was done in Cambridge to see if the play could be done virtually online and have people stream it. And we were part of that. We watched a performance online, and Nassim was present, as was the head of the licensing company for the U.S. and some other people. And I think they made the decision that it worked. For me, it didn't work at all, because I've gone to movies all my life. I've gone to the theater as well, and during the pandemic, I sort of was up to my eyeballs in streaming stuff, and it was interesting, but it lacked that one chemical thing of an audience coming together and having a reaction to what was happening on stage, and you don't have that streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it is available to do the play virtually, but for me, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think he said he made some adjustments because it was virtual, but the regular script you get for performance, I think, is the same one it always was. There were actually two scripts. There's a male script and a female script, so that you don't have to, in your mind, switch pronouns, but the text is the same.
Oh, that's interesting too. I guess I'm out of questions. Is there anything that you if somebody's considering either producing it or wanting to act in it, is there anything you would want to say to them?
Well, what turned out to be important to me is just maintain the secrets,
Yeah.
Be sure that your actors never know anything about the play, If you go online, you can't find much at all about it.
There's nothing. I looked. There's nothing.
the privacy of the script, I think, is critical, so that nobody knows what's going to happen, because that's the only way you generate that immediate live simultaneous theater experience. If you go in and see My Fair Lady, you know what the story is, you know the theater company, you know some of the actors, you know. Give your audiences and your actors a chance to go in blind. It really is different, and I think it's incredibly worthwhile.
I just can't. I'm telling you, I'm bewildered, fascinated, frightened. I'm all of it for to know what that would entail as an actor. It's monumental to me. I mean, it's one thing to do a one-person play where you know all the lines and you know the blocking and you know what you're doing. It's another thing just go cold turkey and just out of the hat, just got to do something, you know.
Most of the actors were in their dressing rooms for about a half an hour before the show started, and I would go back and check in on them every 10 or 15 minutes. And I went in to see Alex Picard and chatted with her for a minute, and I said, okay, I'll leave you now so you can work on your character development.
Yeah. I'd be puking buckets. Jeez.
We were incredibly lucky, Ray, that the players took a chance on us. I mean, if you could have seen our pitch to the board, it was laughable. It was a comedy waiting to be written. Everyone sort of looked at us sort of with a blank stare and really didn't know how to say what they were thinking. And we knew what they were thinking. It's like, how can we agree to let you do this if you can't tell us what it is?
Yeah.
And
one board member actually said, I don't feel comfortable voting for something if I don't know what it's about.
Man, I get it, but man.
Well, and then they did take a chance on us. The then president, Chris Demers, said, you know, these guys have been around for a while. Maybe we should just trust them, you know, and that put a lot of pressure on, because it was like, oh, well, now what happens if we fail? So after we pitched to them, then we had to go and pitch to the Hatbox. And
right.
Same thing. We had a 2-minute pitch where we couldn't say anything. You know, I think that's called mime. So we were incredibly blessed and incredibly lucky, and that, you know, we belong to an organization that's, you know, 90 plus years old, and you know, they had some money behind to help fund this and do the things that, you know, we needed to do for paying royalties and all that. But not every company is going to be that lucky, because you think, oh, well, this is a perfect play because we don't have to hire a director, and, you know, we don't have to hire rehearsal space, and all we need is a venue and an actor to do it, and then to pay the royalties. But, you know, people aren't going to, you know, run to see this. It's all, you know, some movies and some plays are actor based, where it's like, oh, Pacino's doing, you know, some little play, and let's go see Pacino. Well, this worked on that level for us with local actors. So, you know, people came to see our actors, and some came out of the curiosity of, you know, what is this? What's the secret? So we were just really, really lucky, and we know it.
Well, kudos. I mean, a stellar cast. I mean, it's just good work. Nicely done, really.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to cover?
I can't think of anything.
I know anything you can say, I guess.
There are some things, but I can't talk about them.
Nice try.
So thanks. You made my Saturday morning. It was worth getting out of bed for. So.
Thank you, Ray.
Well, thank you, Ray.
You're welcome. Well, we'll get together sometime, I imagine, and do something together sometime again.
Hey.
For the next time we do White Rabbit, Red Rabbit.